As one subset of this work with NGOs, we work with groups that are formally registered with USAID called Private Voluntary Organizations, or PVOs. We have over 700 registered US PVOs with USAID with whom we work, and over 75 PVOs from other countries, international, around the world, from countries like Australia, Canada, Denmark, France, Germany, Switzerland, United Kingdom, Spain, Czech Republic, and there are 3 from Japan as well. Throughout all these programs, it would be difficult for me to overstate the extent to which we work directly in partnership with NGOs. They're really an essential partner in carrying out all of our objectives, from disaster relief to democracy, from avian flu control to agriculture, from education to entrepreneurial training. NGOs are an absolutely essential partner in carrying out our objectives. And by NGOs, I really mean the full range. Universities, educational institutes, professional organizations, chambers of commerce, faith-based organizations, and many, many more civil society institutions that for us are likewise dedicated to development on the ground, and we found often closest to the issues and to solving problems directly in the field. NGOs inform the development of our strategies, the development of our programs, and underlying activities. They also help advocate, in many cases, for policy reforms. In a lot of instances, they also help us evaluate progress in meeting development objectives. We seek to consult with them and engage with them throughout every aspect of the implementation cycle and throughout every phase of our development work. Because of this level of engagement, nearly every USAID mission that I've been involved in, 6 around the world, has maintained a very strong focus and engagement with NGOs. And not just US NGOs or larger multinational organizations, but very often with local and regional NGOs that are not just recipients of assistance from USAID, but are primary implementing partners for us.
그리고 NGO들과
Just to provide a couple of specific examples from my experience, in my last mission in Paraguay, where I was the director, virtually almost all of our implementing partners were local NGOs. 12 out of the 15 major implementing partners that we had were Paraguayan NGOs. In Russia, where I worked in the mid-90s, we started with a portfolio for small business development of about a dozen different US and international consulting firms and organizations. By the end of my 4 years there, we had moved over half of our agreements, transitioned them to Russian local NGOs, universities and business associations, and other local organizations on the ground. I'd like to return just for a few moments to the organization of USAID. I've emphasized the field-based nature of our assistance because I think that's been a particular strength of our operations, but also because I think it's also important context for NGOs interested in working with USAID. But in that same vein, I don't wish to convey that we're not also working with significant guidance and direction from Washington. Our funding levels and our priorities for cooperation, while they are tailored to fit the particular development context, priorities, and need of the country where we're working, it all starts with the State Department and USAID's joint development and submittal of a foreign assistance budget, which requests funding levels for countries and for particular areas such as health and education. The joint USAID and State Department budget for foreign assistance and global development then forms part of the President's overall request to the Congress. After Congress extensively reviews, deliberates, debates the budget, then the funding is allocated to USAID, the State Department, and the other U.S. agencies involved in overseas assistance. I think it's important to note that as a part of this process, in addition to the outreach and the engagement of both USAID and the State Department to the NGO community in the United States, the Congress also asks for and incorporates the input of the NGO community in their deliberations and their formulation of the final budget for foreign assistance. I'd like to just make a quick summary of the President's budget request for this coming fiscal year 2011. Even though it has not yet been reviewed and obviously enacted by the Congress, I think it reflects the emphasis that the U.S. administration is placing on development now, its linkage to diplomacy and to defense as an essential aspect of our national security and our foreign policy interests. The proposed budget outlines overarching priorities that for USAID and the other U.S. government agencies overseas, it outlines priorities that are increasingly the mainframe, I would say, for our work and for our global development engagement. The President's budget obviously emphasizes increased civilian development assistance for the key frontline states of Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iraq, each having a different development context, each its own sovereign state, each with a very different set of priorities, but all crucial not only in terms of development for the region, but also for broader global security and stability interests. There are, in addition to the support for the frontline states, there are 4 presidential initiatives which are increasingly defining our priorities and the focus of our development assistance. The first of which is related to global climate change. President Obama has proposed $1.4 billion, a 40% increase of what was proposed in last year's fiscal budget, to help countries cope and mitigate the effects of global climate change. Assistance to help vulnerable countries become more resilient to the effects of climate change, adaptation assistance, clean energy support, and also support for things to promote a more sustainable landscape. Things like agroforestry, reforestation types of activities. I think with respect to this first presidential initiative, I'm struck with the convergence really with one of South Korea's priorities and support for your green growth initiative in developing countries. Secondly, the President's Global Health Initiative. Despite a lot of gains around the world in public health, such as the eradication of smallpox, gains in polio, some improved results in terms of HIV/AIDS prevention and care, there's still much work to be done and more progress against the health-related goals of the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, Goals 4, 5, and 6. With this in mind, President Obama's first initiative, something which he announced personally last May, was to set aside $63 billion over the next 6 years that would be directed at fighting infectious diseases, improving maternal and child and health care, and strengthening health systems around the world. And I think in this regard, I'm personally aware of important investments that Korea has made overseas. Having served in several countries where KOICA had active offices, I'm aware of some excellent training and also the building of critical hospitals and other medical infrastructure in several countries where I worked.